And we're here. What's up, Nerf herders? Welcome back to the Nap. It is another episode, and I don't know which number it is because I've been gone for a little bit. But here we are. All right, number 9. There we go. Gotcha. Thank you, Josh. Josh, how are we doing today?
Pretty good, man. That might have been, of course. I was just going to say that was the smoothest start we had, and then I accidentally pressed play again. Stupid. I'm doing good, bud. I've had a busy week. I've been doing a lot of recording stuff for work, so that's been keeping me busy. A lot of video stuff, a lot of editing. But I've been doing pretty well. How about you?
I am hanging in there. I've been pretty much like when I'm not working on the video that I filmed before vacation and need to have done by like the 3rd roughly of July. I'm trying to edit photos from the vacation. They're coming out kind of slow, but if you've seen the description on our YouTube channel or on any of our social media, you can find my stuff there. So at Jones on the Lens.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, a lot of video work, a lot of editing, and a lot of trying to keep up with the news because it, like in the vein of what we normally talk about, we don't have too terrible much, at least as far as like not touching on a whole lot of nerdy stuff other than talking about Clone Wars later, which I'm really excited to do.
But we've been building up to this for a while, so yeah, we shouldn't put it off for an hour like we have in the past.
No. I won't say that we've got light topics today, but we're jumping into the lightning round, which we've been liking doing. And so far, I wanted us to talk, these lightning rounds are going to kind of fall into like what I think our first topic should be. And we don't have it up on the title thumbnail because we kind of came up with it just before we started recording.
Hence the lightning round, yeah.
Hence the lightning round. But they're all going to kind of fall into the same thing. That's cancel culture. Now, I'll tell you right off the bat that when you hear the word cancel culture, it does have a negative connotation to it right away because, well, unless you're somebody who's like super for it and really pushes for that kind of stuff. But so with all of the changes that we have seen, which we shouldn't have had to see, racism should never have been a problem, but America. But with the recent protests, the recent spotlight, rightfully so, that has been placed on police brutality against minorities, and the revelations that have come out about, especially some big names. I mean, I know Jimmy Kimmel was just getting some stuff about blackface routines. At least for us as YouTubers, a big name that got hit. Well, I don't know if she got hit, but Jenna Marbles has announced that she is stepping away from YouTube, and she's quoted saying that I don't know if that's forever. I don't know how long it's going to be. I just want to make sure that the things I put into the world are not hurting anyone, which is a reasonable and sensitive move. I didn't necessarily see a bunch of outrage around her videos, but she has done some. She has done blackface before. She has had some other controversial videos, but I've never viewed Jenna Marbles as a racist or anything like that. But safe move, and I mean she's been one of the most popular YouTubers for damn near the whole time. So I mean she deserves a break. The Dixie Chicks are changing their name to the Chicks, which I don't know how that got trending on Twitter. I haven't heard about anything. I mean, I didn't even know the Dixie Chicks were still together. So I had no idea about that. And Rhode Island is moving to change their official name due to slavery connotations. Currently, the official state name is State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations, which obviously plantations is not a great thing, especially to have in your state. But then again, Rhode Island's so small, I think people forget that it's there just about every single day. Like, and there are a bunch of other topics. These are just what are like hot on Twitter right now. How do you feel about cancel culture and how it's making these changes? Oh, also, we had Jenny Slate from she played Mona Lisa on Parks and Rec. She's had a bunch of other roles. That was the first role I saw her in. She has left the animated show Big Mouth on Netflix because she played a mixed race character on that show, but I don't think she's actually mixed race, claiming that black characters should be voiced by black actors, which is not a completely unreasonable thing to say either. But no, how do you feel about just a couple of the things that I rattled off there? How do you feel that I feel like cancel culture is getting a little bit out of control in some places, but
I don't agree with you that all of those things you just listed are examples of cancel culture. I believe that, unfortunately, there's
not
a
directly,
billion.
no.
Yeah, but there's a billion different people that have different definitions for cancel culture. I think
So Jimmy Kimmel's case is absolutely cancel culture.
That was for sure. Yeah,
Cancel Kimmel
that
was trending. That was a big one. I
yeah,
didn't
that
see
was
if Jenna
people
Marbles was getting
rallying.
targeted, but
Cancel culture is usually associated, in my mind, with somebody on Twitter or whatever finding an old video or an old image of somebody, throwing it up there and said, let's cancel this bitch. And then there's a mob on Twitter that goes after that person. Those things are ludicrous. They're over the top. They're ridiculous. They usually don't reflect the person that that person is now. Granted, should some of those things be put to light, especially with politicians or people in power? Yes. But a lot of the times it's just something that someone did a long time ago, just like we all have. Not saying we all have done blackface, but we've all done something in our past that we'd probably rather not the world know. And those people are not the same people anymore. So that's, in my mind, cancel culture. If Rhode Island and its politicians believe that this is the time to change their name and to further distance themselves from a racist past, good on them. That sounds like improvement to me. If the people between Aunt Jemima's pancake syrup believe that their image reflects a happy slave, and that's not something that they want to continue promoting, good on them. That sounds like personal improvement to me. If Jenny Slate backs out of a character on Netflix willingly, and says, "Hey, I think that black people should voice black characters," good on her. That's a ballsy move, but if it's her choice and it wasn't because she was hounded with death threats and mail and messages and everything like that, which I haven't heard about. Granted, I could have easily missed that. Then good on him. I think that's just somebody trying to contribute what they can to the movement, to the cause. And I don't feel like that is cancel culture. And I feel like there's certain people that want to call all of this cancel culture to put a negative aspect on it, when some of these things that you've listed, and I'm not saying you, I'm just saying there's some people like at the Trump rally who listed all of these things on stage and put them under the category of cancel culture to make it all seem like it's bad. And I think personal improvement is a good thing.
Well, like I said at the beginning of like rattling all these topics off, is that they kind of fall in the same vein as cancel culture, maybe not directly, but I can easily see how, especially Jenny Slate's issue could end up in the cancel culture category if people had found out about it beforehand and claimed that the character was being whitewashed or something like that. That is not a far off prediction. Could have been a preemptive strike. Who knows? Or maybe there was a little bit of pressure that was starting to show up, and they were like, "Hey, let's go ahead and take care of it now before it blows up in our face." Rhode Island, I really didn't care. I didn't know that the official state name was State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations until I saw.
Yeah, I certainly
story.
didn't learn that in school.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't feel like that one was too big of a deal. The Dixie Chicks, that one makes sense, but they've also caught stuff before uh, about that. Like, I don't know why now is necessarily a thing to do it, but then again, a lot of people weren't calling for it again, probably because you didn't freaking know they were still around.
Well, I think they were following suit of Lady Antebellum, who just
Yeah,
changed their name to Lady A. So I think I'm sure somebody was like, hey, they did it. And maybe, again, it could have been preemptive. It could have been some pressure. And, again, I mean, yes, preemptive suggests that they're doing it for their own benefit.
yeah,
But, again, if I haven't seen a ton of stuff against Jenny Slate, and I'm searching right now and I still can't find a ton of stuff. So if she did it, and even if she did it of, you know what, there's a change coming and I want to be on the better side of that change, that again sounds like a good choice to me. And she's popular and, she'll get other roles. And this might even open up more doors for her because she's willing to step aside for something that she believes in. If she came out and said, no, I was forced off this project, then I think that would be sad. But right
yeah,
now, she's in a good light for it.
yeah. No, like I said, they're just kind of around sort of the same conversation. There, a lot of it's coming out because of similar reasons. Is for possible claims or actual claims of racism, and particularly in Jenna Marbles' case, I don't think anybody like in this particular instance had been throwing a bunch of heat at her, but Jimmy Kimmel especially, he was seeing a lot. Now, blackface in particular, I can't really defend in any way. A lot of like, which you shouldn't be able to anyway, but a big argument that I hear a lot is, well, for the sake of comedy, as long as they're not making fun of the race, it seems fine. I'm like, no. Blackface has not, like, if that was the case, just hire a black person to tell the joke or to make the joke. Like, don't do blackface. We have known that blackface is has been an issue in popular media for a long time. Jimmy Kimmel's show back in the time that they had done it was not unaware of what the connotations would be even at the time. People were probably outraged at the time. Now, the reason that I can't get behind it in any way, shape, or form, especially if they think, oh, well, we just did it on if people try and put it off as an impulse or it was just a quick decision. Like, no, there's no such thing as quick decisions, especially in that type of medium, because somebody had to pitch the idea. They had to write out and script the idea. They had to film the idea. Somebody then had to edit the idea. Also, especially if stuff is going on TV, it has to go through standards and practices, which is essentially, I think it's a part of the FCC where they're trying to make sure that they're not breaking any rules or they're not going to say anything that the network isn't happy about. So it got through all of those things, and it still happened. And so a lot of it comes down to like the use of blackface in any situation is either blatant racism or complete ignorance to the connotations that it puts out. So when somebody is in blackface and they try and defend that, I'm not hot about that. Now, I didn't see that Kimmel was actually trying to defend it at all.
He kind of put a lackluster excuse. His new spin on it, instead of, shouldn't have happened, should have never done it, it was stupid. He said something to that effect, but also with the caveat of, I didn't view it as blackface. I viewed it as doing an impression of that person.
Yeah, and that just doesn't work that way. That's
right, and especially with his Karl Malone impression, he didn't just do blackface. He also did a voice, and he did a very exaggerated voice and way of speaking. And he
dropped the N-bomb as well. So,
and he dropped the N-bomb multiple times on a podcast or a radio show or something like that when he was talking about Snoop Dogg's lyrics or something like that. And okay, but again, that is, I think, an example of cancel culture. Unless there's something behind those closed doors that we haven't seen, and that Jimmy Kimmel is absolutely a racist piece of shit, then yeah, drop him off the boat and let's get his ass canceled. But unless there's something between those things then and things now, that shows that he has continued to be a racist person and he is secretly very bigoted, then you got to be willing to say, okay, people move on. And I really feel like that is cancel culture. But these other things, they're when I was talking about people just labeling it all as cancel culture, I wasn't talking about you as how you put it. I was actually
Sure.
talking about this speaker at the Trump rally in Arizona. Her name's Reagan Escude. Um, she went up and did this speech before Trump got up there. And of course, people were just cheering her on because she was just like, dropping bombs and everything. But this is what she said about, she said, everything's being canceled. Aunt Jemima was canceled. And if you didn't know, Nancy Green, the original first Aunt Jemima, she was the picture of the American dream. She was a freed slave who went on to be the face of a pancake syrup that we love and we have in our pantries today. She fought for equality, and now the leftist mob is trying to erase her legacy. And might I mention how privileged we are as a nation if our biggest concern is a bottle of pancake syrup? And people just, got out of their
Oh, of
seats
course.
and
Yeah.
started like, yeah, how dare that? No one's biggest concern is that. No one is out there protesting on the streets for a bottle of pancake syrup.
And
They're
if I
not.
remember right, the company decided to do that without any real
Quaker Oats.
provocation.
Quaker Oats decided
Yeah.
to do that. And I'm sure they've had people reach out to them before, but people like this speaker, and I personally know these people. I personally know people who, when you bring up things like this and when they see things on the news, and the news makes it look like everybody is fighting for this, which they're not. But people I know say the same words. They say, we just got to move on, guys. Slavery was over 100 years ago. Move on. Well, it is kind of hard for some people to move on when they can't walk down the aisle of a grocery store without seeing brands that are specifically modeled after slavery. And again, these people aren't setting fire to bakers in Walmart and Hy-Vee because they see a bottle of pancake syrup. They're fighting the
No.
bigger issues, but people like this speaker and some of the news outlets want to focus on these issues to try to unravel everything else as a distraction. They'd rather you focus on the ridiculous stuff and label it all as cancel culture instead of the minute things that really are cancel culture and the bigger issues that people are trying to get addressed. So it irks me when it all gets lumped in because, like you said, or cancel culture has a negative aspect to it. But self-improvement and businesses wanting to come to the modern fucking age of things, and people wanting to do right by themselves and their fellow actors, that's not cancel culture. That's just self-improvement.
Sure. But is it also considered self-improvement when they hadn't done this stuff until this issue got brought back into the national and international spotlight in the way that it did? Like a
I
lot
mean,
of
you're
these
right.
change,
There is
like
timing around it. Yeah.
yeah, and also I also can't help but feel like so there's a comedian out there. His name's Anthony Jeselnik, and he's I'm
Yep.
not going to quote any of his comedy because his is actually pretty offensive. But he has
His
a
stick.
he had a line where he talked about how he hates it when um, people will tweet out my thoughts and prayers around a certain tragedy or something like that, because what it really looks like, and I do agree, but what it really looks like is don't forget about me today.
Yeah. Pay
Or I got
attention
to
to
get my
me.
name in there
For
now.
sure.
And that's kind of what some of this stuff ends up feeling like to me. It's um, like I don't really feel like Aunt Jemima pancakes syrup was necessarily doing that. That one's a pretty obvious one that they should probably be like, yeah, like we should drop that. But the timing comes into question. But there are definitely some people or some organizations that are only changing this stuff because it would be viewed as a positive thing to do in the popular media right now. Instead of having done it well before, or instead of trying to make a big deal out of it. And it's like, what do you want? A cookie? Like you did, you changed something that should have been changed or that shouldn't have been there, or you
Well, I mean, I feel
like
like I feel like I do agree. Yeah, it is definitely motivated by
just a little
everything
bit,
that's on TV.
just a
For I
little
mean,
bit. It's
for
the right thing
everything.
to do, but it just feels a little bit weird.
But
That
you know what? If they're growing now, if they're learning things
yeah,
like
yeah,
everybody else
absolutely.
is learning things, good on them. And my question is, and again, this is the first time I'm hearing about it, so thank you for bringing news to me. Did Jenny Slate hold a press conference? Did she do a personal video that said I made this decision, or did it get out there? Like
It was
sometimes,
definitely her
sometimes
decision.
no,
Um,
I know that, but I mean, did she hold a press conference and let people know about it, or did the industry release that information? Like when a celebrity makes a big donation to a cause, sometimes their own camp puts that information out there. Sometimes the industry just learns about it. So was she seeking attention when she made this choice, or did she just make the choice and the news got leaked?
so I don't necessarily know. She did announce it. Like she wasn't. I mean, she didn't just like sneak off or anything like that. Um,
Well, either way, I mean, did you
like
see
here,
that? This reminds me of that I take responsibility PSA that a bunch of that black and white PSA that a bunch of white actors did a week ago. And you might not have seen this while you were out camping, but like Aaron Paul was in it and Kristen Bell was in it. Did you see this at all?
uh-uh.
So this was like the Gal Gadot Imagine video times a billion, but it was basically a black and white PSA where a bunch of white celebrities came on and did this same monologue, and it did that classic switch between people where they're like, I take responsibility for every time I didn't stand up or for every time I didn't say something. No one wants to hear that shit. That is an example of don't forget about me.
Yeah.
We haven't been filming in a while. Don't forget about me. Whereas at least Jenny Slate didn't just do a black and white video saying, I'm going to do better. She just did something.
Yeah. It
I
was
mean,
a
and you got to give her some credit for that.
yeah, it was a single Instagram post. And it was just a screenshot of what was probably written out on text or something like that. Just so it wasn't like in the captions or anything like that. Um, but yeah, it's just I've come to the decision today that I can no longer play the character of Missy on the animated TV show Big Mouth. At the start of the show, I reasoned with myself that it was permissible for me to play Missy because her mom is Jewish and white, as am I. But Missy is also black, and black characters on an animated show should be played by black people. I acknowledge how my original reasoning was flawed, that it existed as an example of white privilege and unjust allowances made within a system of societal white supremacy, and that in me playing Missy, I was engaging in an act of erasure of black people. Ending my portrayal of Missy is one step in a lifelong process of uncovering the racism in my actions. And there's another paragraph after that,
Now, whether or not she
where she
wrote
makes the
that or her
apology.
PR team, the fact is she put it out there, and you can speculate a lot, but unless this was the after fact of weeks of major cancel culture tweets online, then I still view it as a win. I still view it as it sounds like they made a good decision, and instead of just saying I'm going to do better, she actually pulled the trigger and did something. And I respect that so much more than a black and white PSA.
So it's funny you mentioned Kristen Bell, who said, also on Wednesday, the creative team behind the upcoming animated Apple series Central Park announced that Kristen Bell would be recast as the voice behind the mixed race character Molly Tillerman. So she's getting that changed as well. She'll continue to be part of the show in a new role, which, yeah, fine. Let's see. Both 30 Rock and Scrubs have had episodes that featured characters in blackface pulled from streaming services this week, which
Yeah, I heard about that.
Tina Fey pushed for. She didn't want any of the 30 Rock in there, which is that I think that falls under self-improvement. But at the same time, 30 Rock wasn't exactly an old show, so I wonder about
And she approved it back then for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just her either. Like a lot of people,
Oh yeah, not
would have
just
had
her.
to have let that go. Which is
Right.
funny with Tracy Morgan being on the show. I would wonder if he'd be like, "Hey, no, that you probably shouldn't do that."
And
And
who
again,
knows?
who
He
knows?
might have, and they could
Yeah,
have
who
been
knows?
like, "Well, you're not in that position to make that call."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, having that's kind of the thing. Also, when you have, let's see, who was it? It was Jimmy. It was Jimmy Fallon he got into blackface and he was imitating Chris Rock, I think.
that was Jimmy Fallon.
And
Yeah, on
yeah,
SNL.
and Chris Rock was saying that he was fine with it. I think was his reaction. Now, I can't really get behind that either, because just because the target is okay with it doesn't mean that your audience is going to be. Or like having the that almost feels like you're trying to play the token black guy card. He's like, "Oh, my black friend said it was okay."
Oh, for sure. And we've talked
No,
about this
that ain't
before.
gonna work.
Just because one person endorses it doesn't mean everybody endorses it. Just because a majority of people endorses it doesn't mean it wasn't wrong. And Jimmy Kimmel again, he did the same thing. Or Jimmy Fallon went out there, made his apology video, said it was a different time. Again, if um if he was doing it still, or if he was doing it in the 10, 15 years since then, or if he was doing other things that are on the same level, that, some of this cancel culture does bring to light, especially these people that are able to go back and find tweets of somebody and say, why did you tweet this back in 2012? And then when they say, oh, that was 2012, and then the person drops 2013 and 14 and 15 and 16 and 17 in the past
Yeah.
8 years, that is a trail of breadcrumbs leading to your current racist self. And if they could do that for Jimmy Fallon, do it. If they can't, and people have dropped that. No one's still talking about Jimmy Fallon. That was a month ago. No one's going to be talking about Jimmy Kimmel 2 weeks from now, because it's distraction journalism. They want you to
Yeah.
focus on this stuff, and shame on the media for finding these, these tweet campaigns that mean nothing and blowing them up to make them seem like they are, because they're doing it so that people just get overwhelmed with this stuff, and then they just throw it all under the bus and say, I'm done, instead of focusing on the real issues. I mean,
Yeah,
I
and
get it. It's 24-hour news cycle. You got to put something up there, but be a little more responsible with what you're reporting.
well, I mean, that's the problem that I have with news, is that especially it's more about getting to the news story first than it is about being right.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
and that kind of plays a little bit of a part in it. It's like, oh, we need to talk about this like right away. It and it, like you said, it is kind of distraction journalism, which I don't know why they would try and distract from this current story here, but another thing that has been going on is that an additional 1.48 million Americans filed jobless claims last week, bringing the 14-week unemployment claims total to over 47 million since the COVID-19 crisis gripped the economy in March. 47 million, which I don't know the population of the US right off the top of my head. 328.2 million, according to Google. Sources include the United States Census Bureau, and Eurostat. So,
So
I
what is
mean,
the unemployment rate right now? Did you say the actual rate?
I didn't say the actual rate.
Okay.
Somebody to have to crunch those numbers for me right now. But yeah, 47 million. Let's see. Current unemployment rate in the US is 13.3% as of total non-farm payroll employment rose by 2.5 million in May, and the unemployment rate declined to 13.3%. The US Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today, June 5th, 2020. So
Yeah,
that's pretty
that was
old.
the same day that President Trump went out and said, today is probably, if you think of it, the greatest comeback in American history. And
Yeah.
hopefully George Floyd is looking down right now and saying that
Oh,
this
I
is
was
a
so
great thing
pissed
that's
when he did that.
happening for our country. He actually said that. Like,
It was so disgusting.
this
That
is a
was
great
so
day for him.
disgusting.
That's what he said. Yeah. So Take your victory lap, Donald Trump. You're doing so great.
Trying to find something like current on what the unemployment rate actually is right now, because I mean, this is just talking about 47 million claims. It's not talking about how many are still active. Like that's 47 million out of the 14-week total. So how many of them are still actively unemployed? It doesn't know, and I'm having a hard time finding that information right now.
Well, there's a lot that goes into that. I mean, we've been having
Yeah.
discussions in the past about some people, especially right now with the funds that they're getting, even, you know, like hair salon stylists being said, hey, you could come back to work, and them saying, I'm making more money right now off
Yeah.
unemployment and I'm not risking my health, so I'm not really coming back, you know. So I'm not saying that they're all like that, but there's probably a good amount of people right now that, you know, are, unlike in a normal circumstance when you're filing for unemployment, you just find the first job you can get, you get your foot in the door, and then you go for the job you want. Right now it's just like, I don't really feel the need to risk my health. So maybe people are being a little more picky than they normally are, and they're keeping those unemployment claims out there until they find what they want, until they're comfortable with going, you know, back out into the working world.
Yeah, and I've got friends who had to file unemployment, and they were the system is quite backed up right now too. So or it
I
has been
believe it.
backed up since this all got started. So how many are we still waiting on actually being able to get through? Because they can't get a hold of anybody. Like they're having a hard time actually getting somebody on the phone or just getting their information processed.
Hell, you had a
So
hard time when this wasn't happening, so I can only imagine.
yeah. I let's see. I haven't had to file unemployment since 2008. That was my that was
I
when
had to
mine
file last
actually had to
year,
do
and
that.
that was a process. So I can only imagine with this going on and people working from home and things like that, and the overwhelming amount that they've been getting. And you know, my brother lost his job a week before everything started closing down, and it's been a nightmare for him. So I'm hearing that from a first hand account with him, and how everything is so damn slow. So yeah, I can only
Well,
imagine.
it was slow back in 2008, and then with the advancement of technology and everything we've been able to that they should have been able to implement, it still hasn't gotten any better. That's really sad.
Well, it costs
Really
money to get
sad.
better. It costs money and time and reform to get better. And yeah, no
Of
one wants to be
all
the person that works on that.
never mind.
That's a long
We're gonna
conversation.
yeah, we're gonna jump in way too long here. We're already at like a half hour, and we got to talk about Clone Wars because, I mean, you even shamed me in the title for this. It's like finally watched the Siege of Mandalore. Like, come
Finally,
on.
and did I capitalize finally? Because if I did, then
Yeah,
yeah,
you
that's on
did.
me. That's a little
Yeah, you
sass. But
did.
I've been waiting for this. So are you good? Are we good to move on to that?
Oh yeah, I'm good. So
Hmm.
let me preface stating that it wasn't until this episode that I realized that episode 3 and this 4 episode arc were going to kind of happen along the same exact timeline. Or they're going
Yes,
to cover
right.
the span of the Revenge of the Sith film.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting. I
Mm-hmm.
thought we'd see a little bit more to it. But I think that's an important point to make because I felt we're going to talk spoilers here, by the way. If you haven't seen it yet, I should probably mention that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that is an important point for me because I think that the ending, my feelings about the ending, are going to heavily weigh in on that fact. I think that's going to have a big influence on how I felt about the ending. Uh,
Okay.
but yeah, after Ahsoka's journey, this was a breath of very good, fresh, clean air. um, the episodes were really well made. They skipped the. I really like that they skipped the original introduction where they kind of like lead you in with the narration. I really liked that they kind of gave them all each their own. Like the very first episode got the Star Wars fanfare. like
Yeah, it got the
right off the bat.
Lucasfilm with the green and everything.
Yeah, like I was
You
like,
knew from then that it was different. I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, "Whoa, this is I'm
oh
all of a
shit,
sudden in a
here we
different
go.
mood right now."
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was really cool. Like I'd really like to see. I'm sure somebody's doing it. If they haven't done it already, maybe I'll jump in on that. But somebody was actually, I really want to see somebody do an edit of the 4 episode arc and just kind of edit the pieces in with Revenge of the Sith, and so you
Oh,
can
buddy,
watch like the whole
buddy,
thing in like one
who do
go.
you think I am? I already have this prepared for us. I
Oh
have
yeah,
the 4-hour Revenge of the Sith plus Siege of Mandalore edit for us to watch.
oh, was it four
Maybe
hours?
we'll do a long commentary on that. But I have that file, and it
Four
took a minute
hours.
to get it, but I've got it.
I knew somebody would be doing it. Like I
Oh,
knew
there's
that would be a thing.
2 different ones out there. So yeah, there's a few.
Well, that's good. Um,
Mhm,
I I really like Maul's arc throughout the whole thing. Um, like because it wasn't necessarily a story about him, but I really like how it went along. And unfortunately, there's something about him in particular from, I believe it's Rebels, that got spoiled for me, um, from a GIF that I saw while
mhm,
looking through Clone War stuff.
mhm,
But it also like the I ended up just watching it. I was like, screw it, it's been spoiled for me now. But I ended up
mhm,
watching it, and so it kind of explains what his motivations were for originally trying to draw the Jedi back to Mandalore, uh, trying to use Mandalore as bait essentially for Kenobi.
yeah, right,
Really interesting to see that he had absolutely no intent. Like it wasn't really his intention to actually kill Kenobi. I mean, it probably still was, but his real target was actually Anakin, which was really really interesting. Kind of showed that Darth Maul had um, a lot stronger of a connection to to the Force, especially considering how the Jedi Council were talking about how the dark side was clouding uh, pretty much everything. I think Yoda's exact words were the dark side clouds everything. Um, well, Darth Maul would probably be able to read through that and kind of get the sense of what was going on. And it was really interesting to see that he was privy to what Sidious was planning ahead
mhm,
of time. How
mhm,
far ahead of time? I don't think he really revealed how long he actually knew what was going on.
sure,
Um,
yeah,
but uh, but yeah, still he caught on to it. Um, uh, Before I let you talk, I want to talk about my favorite scene.
okay,
Um, and it was as Darth Maul was being captured and he's being like hauled onto the ship, and we've got that like it's not necessarily my favorite scene, but it was kind of a favorite moment. Like it affected me the most
mm,
as far as emotions wise, because they used while that was going on, Darth Maul is being hauled into the cell. Ahsoka is up on the bridge. They're in hyperspace, and they're playing that slow, somber music, and it is building tension like absolutely crazy. Um, that is it's the same music. I don't know if it's the exact same music, but it was the exact same feel as the moment in Revenge of the Sith when Anakin is kind of telepathically connecting his feelings to Padme. You see them kind of like having their moment between where she was actually at and the Jedi Temple. Um, so it kind of felt like that was a connection to that moment in the movie as far as the timeline goes.
mm,
And and then you have Ahsoka's moment where they used a good amount of the actual audio and then blended it with Anakin's current voice actor of Order 66 being executed. It was just the perfect buildup of tension before what every single Star Wars fan who was watching this series knew was about to happen.
mm,
Like
mhm,
because Obi-Wan had announced that Count Dooku had been killed Count Dooku had been killed, and that he was on his and he was being sent to take out Grievous. And yeah, like they gave it enough of those subtle, not necessarily subtle, but great hints towards that. And then that entire sequence, the tension is just insane. Like I remember watching it like, is something gonna happen here on the ship? Or are they just gonna like every single moment I was like, is Maul gonna like break out of this fancy Mandalorian Jedi trap thing and chaos is gonna ensue? Like I like normally in shows or films, I'm not super like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Like, I'm actually trying to make predictions. I'm trying to like think through what to expect, and I was locked in for this part. Like, I was I had no fucking idea. Like, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I think that might have played a big part of it. Like, I knew what was going to happen at some point. But that tension, like, I felt like I felt like there was going to be like a subplot or something that they were going to have to continue dealing with, and it didn't happen. And so, yeah. And then what we all knew was coming happened. And you hear Order 66 get executed, and then fucking chaos from there. But man, and that's just in like that was just the first 3 episodes. Or was it the first 3 or was it the first 2? No, the Order 66 I think was in the third episode of the arc. I think
Order
that was episode
66 10. Was
or episode
that was in Shattered. Yeah.
Yeah, episode 11. Yeah. Oh man, see, they even used that portion there. Like, they really stepped up their game for these last 4 episodes, and it shows. It absolutely shows. The lightsaber duel between Maul and Ahsoka seemed a lot less cartoony. Like, the motion seemed a lot more fluid and a lot more smooth. That might actually be chalked up to the technology that they used. Who knows? But there was enough motion blur to where it didn't look like they were just like jumping around. Like, it was really smooth and dynamic. The cinematography, I mean, just the shot that you have up on the screen right now is beautiful. Like,
yeah, I wish I had a video
gorgeous.
of it. All the stuff going on in the background while they're talking, all the explosions and everything. It was a gorgeous shot.
And then the glass breaking and neither one of them breaking their stare from each other. Just like,
and
the conversation that they were having, like, Maul absolutely was partially right. And he convinced Ahsoka, like, she was on board until he started talking about Anakin, which she thought was a lie. And
right.
Yeah, I was like, at that point, I was really hoping that they were going to team up. Actually, I really was, because I haven't seen any of the other 2 shows, so I don't know. And don't tell me if Ahsoka has a presence in those shows. So I didn't know what it was going to be like, but it would have been so cool to see Ahsoka doing something with the criminal underworld. Or like, and them having
saw
like
that in the previous arc. She was trading spice in the criminal.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Wasn't enough for you?
Well, that's what I thought they were going to lead into, and that was like, okay, that would kind of justify why that arc happened. She had an introduction to the criminal underworld. Maybe she wants to like use Maul to kind of like get in deeper in it so she can try and bring him to justice or something like that. Who knows? Like I was hoping that they would justify Ahsoka's journey somehow, but I didn't really get that out of these episodes. Like, so now, having seen that 4-episode arc actually went down in ranking for me because they didn't do anything to justify it, in my opinion. Except for like the very last episode where they were like, hey, this is why she's with the Mandalorians now. But they so could have done, like, I feel like this episode arc would have been a lot more well, I can't even really talk bad about this arc because they did such a good job with it. I feel like it would have been a smoother transition if they had spent more time with Ahsoka and the Mandalorians than what they ended up doing. I needed to explain that relationship a little bit more and maybe see like the changed look that she had and the much more mature looking Ahsoka that she had. Like, her armor looked fucking sweet, or her suit. I don't know. I mean, she got shot a few times, so I think she's got some kind of badass armor on there. But yeah, I was pleased. I was 98% pleased with this episode. That's my ranking for this episode arc is 98%. Because the only thing that I didn't like was the way that they ended it. The cinematography was great, but I really wanted Vader to say something. I really wanted there to be some sort of, I don't know, like I wanted a little bit more out of Vader of it, because we can't read his face. Like you can't see the emotions of Vader at all. Like he just bent down, he grabbed the lightsaber, looked at it, took it with him, and walked away. Oh, he lit it up too, but um, yeah, I don't know. Like, does he think that she's still alive? Does he believe that she's been killed? I couldn't really get a read on him from that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because it would be great to find out, because it would also help establish Vader as this just completely evil badass if his one of his best friends, another one of his best friends was, well, first of all, his absolute best friend fucking tried to kill him, and his Padawan, like his trainee, his pupil, his only and favorite pupil, is she dead now? Like, well, shit. Like that would have been another thing to just kind of like push him down that emotional roller coaster. But we didn't get to see that.
Well,
I don't.
I did notice that somebody I did notice that somebody thought that that was to symbolize that she had died, like trying to make it look like she died there with
I
the
don't think
other
that's what her
Braves.
intention was.
Yeah, I don't think it was either. Because why would she just put her lightsaber down right there for someone to eventually find? Why wouldn't she bury them? Like what Ray did or something like that. So the
I
people
think
that
she.
thought that she was trying to make it look like she had died there with everybody else, I don't think that's what was trying to happen there.
I think she was once again letting go of the past. Essentially, like I think the truth about Anakin had finally like she had realized what it actually was and what it meant, and she was just like the lightsaber is a Jedi weapon, and she doesn't consider herself a Jedi, so she let go of a Jedi weapon. She let go of that symbol of being a Jedi, especially knowing that there are clone troopers fucking everywhere trying to kill Jedi now. That's not
Hmm.
something that you'd want to be found with.
Sure, sure. Although, we've seen non-Jedi with lightsabers before. I thought it was kind of silly that she dropped the sabers, especially since she just
At
got them
that,
back. Like Anakin made those ones special for her. Like they had the right colors and in Anakin's eyes and everything like that. That was a cute scene. Maybe
yeah,
that was a way
uh,
of her letting go of him because um, he gave her that, maybe that
yeah,
was part of it.
that
Her
was
needing
good,
to move on more from him instead of the Jedi Order. But
strong possibility as well.
this conversation between her and Darth Maul, I loved. And for
Yeah,
all
it
those
was pretty
people
sweet.
saying that middle arc was to get her to further question her beliefs for the Jedi Order, I thought that did nothing compared to the conversation she has with Maul. And granted, Maul
Yeah,
didn't like just turn her or anything like that, but she could see the reasoning in his conversation. And I really, first of all, I really liked that this is what Maul became. You know, I mean, he went from a very quiet, a very stoic villain to this, to somebody spouting off a lot of sense,
uh,
just directing it to the wrong direction. But, I love that he became this person with a voice that could possibly almost sway a Jedi.
to be fair, the time of him being a stoic villain was spent in the cinematic universe. Pretty much all of his time in the Clone Wars, he's been a truly fleshed out character, and in a really good way. Um, and I gotta give props to his voice actor, because his voice actor did an incredible job. And I gotta look it up again because I can't remember for the life of me. Sam Witwer,
Mhm.
absolutely excellent job. Uh,
Mhm.
like conveying the emotion that he had,
Mhm.
um, and just the like really really working to capture Darth Maul's general demeanor was like, it was just like he was very silver tongued, especially in that scene, and he did a good job of convincing Ahsoka. It wasn't until like they had another line that while they were fighting that I really liked, where where in anger he's like, we could have defeated Sidious together.
Yeah.
And she was like, only for you to replace him. So like that reality came down to her. Is like, you're not any better. I'm not gonna let this like she was a Jedi in that moment. She's like, I'm not gonna let a Sith Lord replace another Sith Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it was well, even if he wasn't a Sith Lord, like he was clearly just an evil person. Like it was great to see her as that Jedi. And then again, throughout the entire arc, it really felt like she was back to being a Jedi, and well, what the Jedi were intended to be. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because that was what I feel like Ahsoka was really leaving the Jedi Order for, is because what she had been educated on what the Jedi were supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
and she even acknowledges this. She's like, we were supposed to be peacekeepers, not soldiers. And it's like she didn't like the direction that they were going in, and this she's actually kind of close to a gray Jedi in some respects, but like her being like, you know what? No, we're like, I'm not gonna kill. Like when they're on the ship and it's coming down, and she tells
Mm-hmm.
Rex, "Is like, I'm like a lot. I know that a lot of these men would give their lives to kill me. I know, like, you're a good soldier, Rex. They're good soldiers too. Uh, I know that they're willing to die to take me out, but I'm not going to be the one to kill them." It's like, I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing, but I think that's pretty close to what her final line was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was great. And throughout the entire ship, she's like, yeah, we're set them to stun. We're not trying to kill anybody. Even though right after that, she did blast a door like 40 feet with 2 clones behind it. So I find it
Yeah,
weird
but
if
I
they
mean,
didn't live through
what
that,
kind?
at least.
I mean, but you could tell that she was struggling with it because earlier on we
Oh, the
had
whole
this scene
time.
here. We had
It's
this
such a
scene with
beautiful scene.
when they painted their helmets. I mean, they were ready. It was nice that they gave her this crew to go to Mandalore with, and they weren't like, oh, screw you, you walked away. They were like, no, we respect you. We always liked you. We cared for you. There's a camaraderie here.
That's
This
the
was an
thing.
amazing scene.
She didn't walk away from them. She walked away from the Jedi Order.
Right, right. But
Like
then to
they
see
never felt any disloyalty towards her, which is great.
Right. And when you start the arc off with this and then you see the decline and you see some of these people, including other ones that weren't from this unit, trying to actively kill her. It was hard to watch, man. And you could tell that she was struggling with it. And I loved how one of her ways of surviving was going to release Darth Maul, and Darth Maul was like, did you come to your senses? Are you here to join me? She's like, no, I just need a distraction. And she just let that dude loose.
Go cause
And
some
he
chaos. That's what you're good
he
at.
messed some people up. Did you see that scene where he took,
Dude,
was it
he
a
was
door that he just like sliced people in half with by
he
like
was pulling
forcing it
like
down?
panels off of the wall and using them as shields and then cutting people. Like, I think
Oh
these are
my
like
gosh.
I think that scene was like the most dismemberments that we've seen in the entire series.
Oh, he messed some people up.
Like,
Yeah.
and then he cuts off a clone's arm by like jamming him in the door, true Mandalorian style.
Mm-hmm. And
And
he
then
and he
steals the
learns about Order
communicator.
66 by doing the whole mind reading thing on one of the
Yeah,
clones and
it was
everything.
nice. It was nice seeing that
Yeah.
as an ability, and wasn't. I mean, it wasn't before Kylo Ren did it, but still,
Right.
like,
Right.
I mean,
Um.
yeah, like, and then him fucking like truly Force Unleashed moment, tearing, like, ripping the hyperdrive generators out of the ship, or not out of the ship, but just tearing the ship apart with the Force. Like,
Right.
it's like,
There was
which
that
made me
scene
laugh
when.
even more about his like when Ahsoka's busting him out. It's like, will you at least give me a fighting chance wanting a lightsaber? Like, dude, you didn't freaking need one.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah,
kidding me,
you
man?
don't need it for sure. But then he left her to dry, high and dry, by stealing her
Yep.
ship, and she almost had it. She was reaching, and she was like, "eh," but then shit was happening on the other side. She couldn't hold it. But
Well,
um,
She knew Rex was probably about to die because he got hit a couple times. She
yeah.
wasn't about to let him die just to do that.
Thank God she had Rex there. But I mean, there were a couple times where I was like, oh my gosh, had I not seen Rebels, that's the thing. Well, first of all, before we get to that, yeah, her going from this moment to this moment, and the fact that they got away, but then they went and landed and they buried as many as they could find. That spoke so much to her character, and it was heartbreaking. And the music, and just seeing her face, and then her going off with Rex, and then the next scene is however long in the future, and you see the other stormtroopers with their winter gear, and then you see Vader, and you see this final shot.
And
That
classic
was a beautiful
stormtroopers.
transition. Yeah, it was that classic that we've seen from the original trilogy. This is what I completely sympathize with how you felt about this ending, and I 100% agree with you that I would have felt the same way. And I won't spoil it, but I would have felt the same way had I not already watched Rebels. And that's the problem here, is that there was a time that they never thought this season would happen, and there are things in Rebels that goes beyond this and
Well,
completes this. And
you
that
had
in
seen
Rebels is done now. So there was a whole series that they did between Clone Wars season 6 and season 7 that fleshes this out. But had we not had that, then yeah, this would have felt a little lackluster to me.
so well you hadn't seen Rebels until you finished this though, right?
Oh yeah, that is correct. Yeah. So
I was gonna say,
that is correct. So and
was that kind of matching up with your initial feeling when you first saw this before moving on to Rebels?
yes, I did remember feeling it was rushed. Remember thinking, "Oh shit, I really would have liked to see something in between, Ahsoka leaving and this point. There's like Vader has a piece of his helmet missing and you can see his eye. There's a lot. I mean, there was a lot of emotion in here for me not watching Rebels, but I wanted more. And at that moment, I was definitely mad that I had to watch 4 episodes of the Martez sisters and I couldn't have got like something in between this episode and this scene. But I was mad. I was still mad about the Martez sisters. But after this, I did go right into Rebels, and Rebels did flesh this out. And I won't say how, but it goes a long way to flesh this
Okay.
out, and it
Now
works.
is the Rebels a complete series?
Yes,
With the
although
looks like it has 4 seasons. I'm trying to like
it
scroll through
it's
fast, but
ended. It's ended. Yeah. I think there's a lot of
you
people
don't
like
think it's a
me that
complete
wishes there
series?
was another series, but they did end it. Yeah.
Well, isn't that what Resistance is supposed to be?
Resistance isn't connected.
It's not
as
connected
as
at all.
as far as I
Okay.
know, it's not connected. Not like Rebels was a very much sequel to Clone Wars. Resistance is just an animated show that's not a sequel to Rebels. And a
Okay.
lot of people want a sequel to Rebels because of how it ends. But it was a I didn't care for and we'll talk about Rebels eventually when you watch it. I didn't really care for how Rebels started, but holy shit, by the time it got to those later seasons, which is basically 2, 3, and 4, and it
Okay.
starts making its connections with Clone Wars, I was like, this is everything. I love it.
So the first season is going to be rough for me. That's what you're saying.
I mean, you might be different, but I was like, I could give no fucks about this. Like, I'm not. I was having a hard time connecting with the characters, and it could have been because I just came off of such an epic show of Clone Wars,
It's the
and
same team,
also
isn't it?
it's the same team, but it still felt different. And it was also made before this season, so there was a little backtrack in terms of quality of graphics. Not crazy backtrack, but there was definitely a different and
Noticeable.
noticeable difference, and it was a different animation style, so I was struggling with the visuals and I was having a hard time connecting after I had just gone through the whole series of Clone Wars. So yeah, it took me a while, but after the first season, ooh, Dave
So
Filoni just brought it home.
when I first started seeing stuff about it, what turned me off was the, the what are 1/4 inch wide lightsaber blades.
Oh my, I never got
Like
over that. It
they
looks
just
so
look like
weird.
they look like twigs,
They
or
look like
they look like they look like the dowels that I would use as reference points to actually put them in, to actually like add
Right.
lightsaber effects later. Like they're so thin, it was
They
ridiculous.
they reminded me of fencing swords, how thin
Yeah.
and long, and it never gets better. They, to their credit, they stuck with that design choice, and that was part of the animation
Like
style that
we're
I
in it
never
now.
liked. I never liked. It was weird. But when Clone Wars, especially that scene with her and Darth Maul, but even in the earlier seasons, when they got into it, one of the things I loved was that you had that thick lightsaber, but then when it moved, you had that wave of
Yeah.
laser, and
Yeah. The motion blur.
it always just looked, oh, amazing. And then yeah, Rebels comes along and it's this twig of light, and I don't know if that was like a callback to the way the originals looked in the 1970s version of Star Wars. That could have been a nod to that,
Could have been, yeah.
but it took me a minute to get over that. But yeah, there was things like that right off the bat. I was like, I don't like it. But the story comes through. It does come through.
Okay. Well, I'll suffer through the first season then if it's gonna be that bad. No, like I after having finished this series, I'm kicking myself a little bit for not. This is a problem that I have had for a long time. I am
Mm-hmm.
I am generally not one to watch animated shows. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Like I don't have anything against animated shows. It's just I never really like. I think the last animated show that I watched besides Clone Wars was was like Samurai Jack when it was airing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like at least as far as like science fiction or like not comedy. Um, there are some comedy animations that I've watched very much more recently, but as far as anything, especially in the Star Wars or in any of my like in any of my super fandoms, like a lot of like side content, I I haven't been a good nerf herder. like like I said, like I haven't caught up on I haven't even seen a episode of Rebels. I haven't seen anything of Resistance. Um I've watched a bunch of Star Wars short films that are non-canon. I've read a bunch of books and comics that are, yeah, they were out before Disney, so they'll be considered non-canon as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, lately I haven't been great, and I need to get caught up. And it's not just my fandoms. Like I need to get into animated features a lot more because the reason that I find it so weird that I'm kicking myself is that some of my favorite stories that have ever been told uh, have been from video games. Uh, and essentially, you're dealing with kind of like the same thing there. You're dealing with a piece of media that is not limited to the capability of actors or a full on film production crew using real people. Uh, Obviously, like I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that the Duel or a lot of the stuff from the Clone Wars series was done using motion capture,
Mm-hmm.
which is an incredible art in and of itself. Um, but yeah, like especially recently, some of my favorite stories have been told using in video games, which is essentially again animation. Like it's and so I really need to give more stuff a chance. Like I need to check out some more anime for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um like I need to watch these other two series for Star Wars and anything else that decides to come out here in the very here and hopefully the near future. Um yeah, I don't know why I haven't given animated shows as much of a chance as I should, other than like the first 5 seasons, yeah, the first 5 seasons of Clone Wars. Um Prior to now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, after finishing this out, I'm literally having like moments where I'm like, why wasn't I watching stuff like this sooner? Like why wasn't I checking stuff like that like this out sooner? But but to be fair, I am also not caught up on a lot of very popular media that a lot of people would be very upset that I haven't done. You especially have given me crap for in several
But that's what
instances.
I'm here for.
But that's probably the thing. Like instead of like instead of taking in content like I normally do, where I'm normally editing, or I'm normally working on something else, and I've
Mhm.
almost always got it on in the background. This was a series where I was like happy to be pulled away as many times as I
Mhm.
was, and to
Yeah.
just focus on watching it and nothing else. And and like I wasn't trying to ignore it or anything like that, but I was putting it on because I have a very crazy attention span. It's a blessing and a curse because I'm able to pay attention to a lot of different things at the same time, but
Mhm.
I also now have to do a bunch of different things at the same time.
Mhm.
Um, and so it gets a little scrambled in there. But yeah, I after this, I am definitely going to be checking out more. Like I need to get caught up on a lot of stuff, but a lot of stuff when it comes out new, I'm not going to throw shade or shy away from animated stuff anymore. Like it doesn't make sense that I've been ignoring it as much as I have, so I really need to give it a shot.
Well, we've said this a billion times, but this series justified um the prequels. It justified
So
the
much.
prequels so much. And this is you know, I that's coming from me as a person that's evolved. I When I watched the prequels, I was younger. I wasn't a kid, but I was younger and I appreciated them. I appreciated
Yeah.
parts of them. I saw flaws, but I appreciated them. I remember going to see the Phantom Menace at the Indian Hills Cinerama in Omaha before they tore it down, and that was a majestic moment for me. Um, I I enjoyed watching them, and then as I grew older, I recognized the flaws in them more and more, and I didn't grow to just hate and despise them, but I recognized the flaws, and I saw the grandeur of it, but then the pieces that were lacking, and I am so glad. I'm so happy to you. I mean, this all this has been a very long my friend showed me segment because you convinced me to watch this show and it has 100% changed the way I feel about Star Wars. It was not just a bunch of random stuff that happened between episodes. It added content, it added emotion, it added depth, it brought in a completely new character that I had never seen on the big screen before. That now is one of the most realist characters in the universe for me,
Yeah.
and it did so much for her. And no, this I won't spoil it for you, but no, this there is more between this and what you'll see of her in Mandalorian. You need to watch Rebels because there is more. But this show did so well to flesh out Anakin and to add to his broship with Obi-Wan and to really add to his fall with how he failed his Padawan and how he saw, the wrongness of that. And then, bringing back someone like Darth Maul could have been the most gimmicky of gimmicky things. And had I not watched this, I would have definitely felt that way. Well, that's actually how I felt when I saw that Solo movie with no context and Darth
Really?
Maul showed up at the end. I was like, the
Yeah.
fuck? No. I'm sorry. Throwing in Darth Maul at the end of a mostly shitty film does not make it less shitty. But
Makes perfect sense now.
with this, it
Like,
makes perfect sense. Yes.
like
And I don't credit Solo for that. I credit this show. It doesn't make Solo that much better, but it certainly makes that scene make more sense. They did so much with him when they could have just made it a gimmick. They fleshed out a lot of the war. They fleshed out the characters, and I really felt like I had watched a drama, and I felt complete at the end of it. And it this season, the seventh season, I remember when we were first talking, when I was first watching this show, and I told you that I was afraid that this was going to end at right at the beginning of episode 3, and how I hoped that there would be some type of overlap. And that's why I love this final. Get that cat down.
oh, dude,
That's
he was
why
stuck. I was about to interrupt you and be like, "Hey, we need to stop because the cat is stuck in the blinds. Like he literally had his claw and it was
I
like stuck
saw
in
I
there."
saw in the background.
And so
What do you got out?
he's just staring at me like, "Hey, you gonna help me out with this?" I'm like,
No, you got
"Yeah,
yourself
I
into that.
suppose."
Get yourself out. The fact that these last 4 episodes overlapped with things that I've seen in the movies, and it did it so smooth that you knew exactly what was happening off screen, which would have been
Yeah.
on theater screen. It was so smooth, and I was just like, yes, this is you know this is Dave Filoni at God level. This is what he's been building up to all this time. This is why he is the person that should be overseeing Star Wars in the Kevin Feige role, because he knows how to make it work. And he had a map to this point, and you saw the stepping stones and you prayed that he could pull it off. And he fucking pulled it off in my book. And I'm telling you, it's only because Rebels already came out that it ended the way it ended. Had it ended this way before Rebels, you would have been pissed. But if you watch Rebels, you'll forgive this ending, because most people have seen all of Rebels by now. So,
Yeah.
they feel like this is a completed ending when combined with Rebels. I certainly forgave it after watching Rebels and realizing that most people that watched Clone Wars the day it came out knew that Rebels was, they had already watched Rebels to this point. So he wasn't going to have to add in all that stuff. But it felt right to me. It felt so right. And you mentioned this earlier, and I'm going to confirm it for you. There is a 4.5 hour cut. It's called the let's see, it's a 4.5 hour Return of or Revenge of the Sith Siege of Mandalore cut. And I'm going to tell you everything that's in it. It includes all 4 episodes of the Siege of Mandalore arc that we've been talking about, save scenes that are repeated in Revenge of the Sith, deliberately trimmed to fit together more directly. See below. All of the Revenge of the Sith movie, save 4 to 5 lines on the balcony scene. You know that one. I'm not sure what he's talking about. 5 deleted scenes, 3 deleted rebellion scenes, Yoda's landing, and the extended Chancellor's office scene, and about 21 minutes from the 2003 Clone Wars micro series, upscaled in true 4K. And those minutes show basically what happened to Grievous and everything kind of between all this. So it's a 4.5 hour cut. And if you don't want to wait for me to share it with you, because it's like it's like 12 gigs, it's actually currently on Pornhub under the name under you can I just checked the link and it's working. Under the name Old Man Fucks Entire Galaxy is the name of the 4.5 hour cut. So it cracks me up that that's the name they went with. But yeah, so
Oh, yep,
it's
there it
there.
is. Thank you, Laser Moon 66.
Old Man Fucks Entire Galaxy, Pornhub, pulling
I
through.
tell you what really sucks is that it's not the first result. It's actually the third result on here.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure somebody was like, "That's clever. Let's add that on there."
Oh man, you don't
Yeah.
want to look at any of the other stuff that's on here though. I mean, the first result is literally Palpatine announcing the end of the Republic and executing Order 66 and all that. So,
yeah.
I mean, the first result's still right.
So,
But where'd you
yeah,
download it from?
a Reddit source. I'll
Okay.
send you the link. But the guy that created it had I joined the Clone Wars Reddit page after watching it, so I could like discuss things with people, since I clearly couldn't discuss it with you for a long ass time.
Yeah.
So then yeah, what's going on here? Why is my computer acting this way? So then I found it on there, and it was some guy that was that had created that, and he was sharing his progress and everything. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And I haven't watched it yet. I've skimmed through it, but I haven't watched it because I wanted to watch it with you. So yeah.
Okay. 4
Which is
hours
weird
though,
though, because
man.
I'm looking at the porn hour. I'm looking at the Pornhub
4
version.
hour.
Yeah, the Pornhub version is 4 minutes and 23 seconds.
It's 4 hours
My
and 23 seconds.
4 hours and 23 seconds, or 4 hours and 23 minutes. Mine is 4 hours and 19 minutes. So I got to see if maybe they added just a little bit more, or mine was trimmed down a little bit. I got to figure out what the difference is. I'm sure there's a Reddit post with Pornhub versus Reddit cut, but yeah.
No, just in closing, before we close this episode out, I want to give credit where it's due. To Sam Witwer, the voice of Darth Maul, did an excellent job. All the voice actors, but especially Ashley Eckstein, who voices Ahsoka Tano, did an absolutely excellent job. It's funny, like actually seeing her face. I recognized her right away. She was actually the dickhead girlfriend from Drake and Josh a long time ago. I don't know if you remember that show,
Oh,
but
really?
yeah. She's
Wow.
only in like
Okay.
one episode, but I'm going through her IMDb here.
Mhm.
Also, so she did the entire Clone Wars series. She did the voice of Ahsoka Tano that you hear in Rise of Skywalker, in the last scene with Rey.
Mhm.
She did the Star Wars. She did Ahsoka Tano as a little girl. She did Ahsoka Tano in Forces of Destiny,
Mhm.
which I haven't even heard of that, so I'm gonna have to check that out now. Um, she's the okay. Yeah, well, that's spoiled for me now. I guess she's in Rebels.
Yeah,
um,
she's
but
definitely in
but
Rebels.
but she voiced the fuck. I wish I hadn't seen that.
Mhm.
Um,
Why are
so
you reading this, buddy? Why are you
well,
reading
I
this?
honestly I should have expected it, but like I'm way down here now. So she's also the voice of Ahsoka in Lego Star Wars, Clone Wars Republic Heroes video game, Star Wars Clone Wars Lightsaber Duels video game, like the whole thing. Like she is this character. Like she is
Mhm.
absolutely this character, which is God. Fuck, I wish I hadn't seen that. God damn it. I should have known better. I
Should have
should
known
have
better.
known better.
Yeah, sorry, bud.
Well, no, like because I when I looked up her page, I saw what she's known for, and it just shows the Clone Wars movie that they animated movie that they came out with, and then it's got her here in Rise of Skywalker. She's not known for Rise of Skywalker. She had a second of not even screen time, and then it's got Star Wars: The Clone Wars series, and then a movie called Sydney White with Amanda Bynes. Like, I
Yeah,
would
never heard
think
of
that
that.
her, I would think that it would show her up here in fucking Rebels first, but whatever. I'm gonna blame IMDb for that one. But
Yeah.
then also we got to give a nod to Dave Filoni, obviously the creative mind behind this. Um, like I did see that he did write an episode of The Mandalorian.
Hmm.
He wrote the Gunslinger episode, which is kind of
Okay.
sad because that was like one of my least favorites out of the the series. But um,
Mhm.
yeah, just a great crew, a great set of actors. They picked their voice actors very well. Um, they they justified the prequels. They did what before the Clone Wars series came out. They did what nobody thought they could do, and I believed that without having even seen season 6 and 7.
Mhm.
Like I believe that having only seen up to season 5 before you and I started this rewatch. Like
Mhm.
I convinced you to watch the Clone Wars and you ended up finishing the entire series before I did.
Yeah,
Like
which I didn't realize back then. I thought that you had watched it all at this point because I
yeah,
even
no,
started
but
this well after season 7 was done this year. So I had thought that you were at least caught up to season 7, but yeah.
nope, just season 5. But yeah, this just goes to show that there's great possibilities inside the Star Wars universe to tell good stories.
Hmm.
And there were a lot of good stories that had nothing to do with the actual with the characters that we are most familiar with. Um, especially the clones, especially the clones. Like I think Commander Cody was like the only clone that we had heard of by name before this series,
Hmm.
and he honestly he did not get a lot of screen time. Like
Hmm.
they didn't give him a lot of screen time. They certainly did not give him as much of a role as they did Rex, Fives,
Right.
Jesse.
Right.
Um, just excellent work that they were able to do with the clones. It was such an interesting concept too, because you're dealing with characters bred for war, and when they branched off from that, from having that be their only purpose, they did such a good job with it.
Well,
I
and I
think even
think
those were some of your favorite episodes, were when they were focused on just the clones themselves.
absolutely they were done so well, and I think it's something we need to remember here that even though this came out on Disney Plus, this was not a Disney product. This was a product
Didn't
of
start out as
Lucasfilm.
one. Yeah.
This was the product of Lucasfilm. This has been Dave Filoni's and George Lucas's baby from the beginning. And you know, we give George Lucas a lot of shit, but
Give him a lot of praise too, but
he was a
yeah.
big part of this. He wasn't just like, "Hey, go make my movies work." He was a big part of this. He and Dave Filoni co-created and designed Ahsoka. And again, it's an amazing Ahsoka is Harley Quinn level for me. Something that came out of the animated series that is so good. Now it's canon. Now you're seeing her in these other things like The Mandalorian. We're actually supposedly going to see her live action in The Mandalorian. So she is canon. And it speaks a lot to the writing. It speaks a lot to the voice acting crew for sure and the visuals, but a lot to the writing crew to really make something that good. And
I think it'd be
did,
great if Eckstein did the same, so we get the same voice, or we get a
oh, I
more
know
mature version
that
of
won't happen.
like,
That won't happen. But
no, they want name drops.
But Disney needs to take note here, man. I mean, again, they started out with good intentions by bringing over what's her face, Kathleen Kennedy, because she was initially brought on to protect George Lucas's interests because she and George Lucas were tight, and she is an incredible producer, but Disney Star Wars has been tainted by every decision she's made, and it's not all her fault, but a lot of people feel like a majority of it's her fault, and it's definitely not a role she's ever been a part of. And I feel like with the success of this, with everybody's super high praise of this, especially when pretty much anything that gets rebooted or brought back just gets shit on for missing the mark, and no one's shit on season 7. Everybody's been like, yeah, you might have had those shitty Martez sisters, but the rest of this was amazing. I really feel like they should consider putting Dave Filoni and his team in a bigger role. You know, a lot of people still feel like the animated level is the little leagues, and it's not. But for the love of God, I don't
The amount of
care.
work that they have to put in, like,
Yeah,
to get you to connect with characters that aren't real.
yeah.
It,
Stop
like,
chasing big names like the direct or the showrunners of Game of Thrones, and put somebody who's given you a solid product and who knows the universe. Get him in there. You know, he'll give you something new and yet somehow make it work with the old. I mean, he pulled off what no one's been able to pull off so far in Star Wars. You overdid it with the new movies. People thought it was too nostalgic or it was too far off the beaten path. He gave you the best of both worlds with Clone Wars, and he made it work. I want to see what his mind can do in live action. I feel like that is the best route for Disney to succeed going forward in Star Wars.
well, you got a taste of it in The Mandalorian with the one episode that he wrote there, but he wasn't the creative force behind that one either.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
well, I'm 100% on board. We got to wrap this up, but I gotta give one more shout of absolute praise to season 7 for this one thing that they decided to do or not do, and that is they decided not to have an episode that involved Jar Jar Binks. And Jesus Christ, did I appreciate that. It's like he was not a character that I needed any closure from or anything like that. I was completely okay with it.
I don't know, man. I could have used a couple of his scenes in the Martez sisters
Maybe,
thing.
yeah.
That could have maybe brought that up a bit.
I
But
mean, if
yeah,
they had brought out, like, maybe if they had brought him in an arc and revealed him as the Sith Lord that was playing Palpatine like a puppet, I'd been like, okay, hilarious. But like,
yeah. But
uh,
there wasn't any of that. There was no gimmicks in
no,
this. There was no
no,
fan service. There was just good storytelling.
yeah, and honestly, I'm stoked for more. I'm really glad that watching Rebels isn't going to be a bust for me. That's good news.
Yeah.
Um, I also encourage people to, if they haven't already, to check out some of the Star Wars short films that have been made by independent creators, especially on specifically on YouTube.
Oh yeah, there's a
Because
few really good ones out there.
oh man, there's a lot of them. I'm gonna throw a. I just gotta find it here. I gotta throw a particular nod to one that I just saw recently. It's actually pretty old, but it is Darth Maul Apprentice. It's a Star Wars fan film. It's by T7 Pro. It's 4 years old. Uh,
Hmm.
Now the story necessarily they didn't do too good of a job, but the choreography they did an excellent job with, and they really captured that uh, super well. And also, if you haven't checked it out already, if you want to get more on the video gaming side, if the trailers somehow haven't convinced you to jump into it, the Old Republic MMO is actually really good. Has some great stories in the set in the Star Wars universe that are just excellent. They're really well done, and it's free to play. So if you really only want to play for the story, you're in. Um, but the like if you haven't seen any of the cinematic trailers for the Old Republic, you need to watch them.
Mm.
Um, like I think I've talked to you about them before, so I think you've seen them already. But
Hmm.
anybody who's
Yeah, I
watching
have.
who hasn't
They're
seen the
beautiful.
cinematic trailers for the Old Republic, if the team who put those together teamed up with Dave Filoni, holy shit.
I
Like
know, right?
you'd have the most beautiful visuals in the most beautiful animated visuals in the Star Wars universe, plus the knowledge and power of Dave Filoni and his team. Oh my goodness, that would be that's my dream scenario for the next piece of Star Wars media. It's not going to
Mm.
happen, but it's my dream piece. It's my dream scenario for the next piece of media.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, Star Wars is. I think it's safe to say that Star Wars' best content is not going to come directly from Disney. It's going to come from people who have a real deep care for the universe and don't want to be involved because they get to put it on their resume. I honestly got to say, like, I don't know how much of a fan of Star Wars J.J. Abrams or Ryan Johnson were, or the teams that they had behind them. Who knows? Like, maybe they're just trying to tell a decent Star Wars story instead of trying to tell a really good Star Wars story. It was
Mm.
like how many people are working in those teams who are just there because they're getting paid to be there. It was like, whereas you got Dave Filoni was who had George Lucas, the man, with him to really sit down and flesh out something that's not a film. They don't have to tell like the entire cohesive story in an hour and a half. They get to do something long form. And like they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah,
They really did.
they really did. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, we're finally done with it, man.
Yeah, we're finally done with it. Now you get to shame me for not being caught up on Rebels
No,
for
man,
the next.
I'm just gonna encourage you. I'm just gonna keep on checking in on you,
That's
and
one word for it.
yeah, keep on
Encouragement.
checking in on it. Yeah.
Well, that's gonna wrap up this episode, Nerf Herders. Thank you for stopping in. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you watching. If you have something to add, hit us up in the comments down below or check us out on social media. You can find Nerf Herders Assemble on all the social media platforms. Um, hit the like button if you like this episode. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. Be honest, we can take it. And until next time, we will see you guys later. Subscribe.
See ya.